Welcome to the Retirement Mentality Channel. This is a place where I want to change your mentality about retirement. Come on, guys, let's think different about how we think about our money, how we think about debt, how we think about investing. And a lot of you guys are listening to all these different gurus. And I did a video about a week ago saying that a lot of these gurus are losing touch with reality. People like Graham Stephan, these guys are making millions and millions of dollars. And I think they're forgetting about why they got into this and who they were teaching. And like me, Kevin's just doing videos about where your stimulus check is at. So I want to talk a little bit today about Dave Ramsey. A lot of people love Dave Ramsey. A lot of people hate Dave Ramsey. I think Dave Ramsey's got good. I think he's got bad. So I'm going to break it down for you and tell you what parts to listen to, what parts not to listen to. Let's get into it right now. If you're new to the channel, you may be asking yourself, hey, who's this guy? How come he can talk about Dave Ramsey? Why does he think he's qualified to say that what Dave Ramsey says isn't great? I'm not saying that. I'm saying some of what Dave Ramsey says is good, some is bad. Myself personally, I started buying real estate in the early 2000s. I went broke in 2008 when the market tanked and the bank foreclosed on all my properties. I lost everything, went to broke. Sheriff kicked me out of my house. I got back on my feet. I started buying one house every year. And after 5 years, I had reached financial independence. I had a net worth over $1 million. I kept buying houses after that. Then I basically took last year off. I moved to a Caribbean island. I'm still investing. I'm still buying houses. Now I'm doing things like this, teaching other people to do what I've done. So that's who I am. And that's where my knowledge comes from. Okay, so Dave Ramsey, he's about as big as they get in terms of the personal finance gurus, the guys, the YouTubers, the podcasters, the teachers, the mentors, whatever you want to call them. And he's got a very devout following. But I did some research recently. I found a lot of people that follow Dave Ramsey got into trouble later from listening to his advice. So I'm going to tell you some of the things that he does right and some of the things that he does wrong. And the point is, there's a lot of people out there, there's a lot of people giving advice, and most people have good things that they're trying to say, but some people have some bad things too. Dave is one of these guys that he went broke. He talks a lot about going broke and building it back. And it's like his story, somehow he went from broke to bazillionaire. And I think he forgets that there's a big part in the middle there that you got to work on. So I'm going to tell you a couple of things. The main thing that he does is work you through the snowball method, where you pay off the littlest debt and then the second littlest debt and the third littlest debt. And it lets you work through getting the debts paid off, and you see progress because you're paying off the little ones first. And then as you make momentum, you apply that payment to the next payment. It's a great idea. It's a good way for people to pay off debt. It's not my favorite way to do it, but it works for a lot of people. One of the problems with this, though, is he says not to invest while you're paying off debt. He says only pay off the debt and then start investing afterwards. And I think this is bad advice. I think people need to train their brains to start investing even when they're paying off debt. Even if it's $10 or $20 a week, you got to get in the habit of just putting something into, even if it's just a savings account to start with, and when you get a couple $100s in there, maybe throw it into an ETF or something, learn about investing. But while you're paying off debt, I think you also need to be investing something just to get your brain in the habit of doing it. I think that's very important. And I think that Dave misses a boat on that one. Okay, the place where a lot of people get in trouble with Dave's advice is he tells people not to worry about their credit score. And this is the place where I think he went from 0 to $1 million. He didn't apparently ever use any credit. He thinks people shouldn't have credit cards. He thinks people shouldn't use mortgages. And that is just ludicrous advice in today's world. You need to use credit cards. You need to once you learn how to manage debt, you should have some credit cards. You should take advantage of the points. You shouldn't carry credit card balances. I pay my credit cards off every month, but I'm getting into the credit card churning right now, where you apply for a credit card, you spend $4 grand on it over the couple of months, and they give you 80,000 free points, which equals free plane tickets and free money. So you need to learn how to do that. It's a little bit more advanced if you're in the very beginning stages. So Dave is a very beginning stage person, and that's my whole point. Once you should work your way out of Dave's advice. Dave can start you down here, but once you get somewhere here, you got to stop listening to Dave. You need to use credit, and you need to have a good credit score. You can't get any credit without credit score, and you're never going to be able to buy a house. You're not going to work your way out of, if you're listening to Dave Ramsey, you're trying to work your way out of debt. And eventually you're going to want to buy a house. And if you're just trying to work your way out of debt, you're not going to go from zero debt to pay cash for a house. It's impossible. So you need good credit. So don't listen to Dave. Worry about your credit. I'm going to do a video on how to pay off debt And I'm also going to do a video on how to improve your credit scores. Videos that I said I was going to do a long time ago that I never got done. But doing this video reminded me that I need to do those, which also reminds me, if you're new to the channel, I'm a guy that talks about real estate investing. I talk about early retirement. I talk about the FIRE movement. I talk about debt. I talk about all this kind of stuff. If this is interesting to you, if you're into this kind of thing, please consider subscribing to the channel. And if you're finding value in this video, please hit the like button as well. So what's the next one? Emergency funds. Dave says you should only carry a $1,000 emergency fund. And we all know after what's just happened in the world, I mean, what emergency only costs $1,000? I don't know, like a new engine in your car, that's more than $1,000. A trip to the hospital because you broke your leg, I don't really know what that costs. But the point is, if you only have $1,000 in your emergency fund and a real emergency happens, you're going to go to zero or negative. So we all know now you can lose your job, you can get laid off, you can lose hours, lots of things. You can get locked into your house for 6 months. So I think people need bigger emergency funds. You need 6 months of your expenses. And if you have more assets, you need bigger emergency funds. I have 6, 7 houses. One of my houses just got flooded and I didn't have flood insurance. It's going to cost me probably 80 grand. So having 6 or 7 houses, imagine what kind of emergency fund I'm dealing with. So you need to be ready for the unexpected. So I just wanted to point out, those are just like 4 things that I think Dave Ramsey is off base on. He does, like I said, have some good tips for beginners trying to get out of debt, trying to just learn about investing. So the point is, take the good with the bad to learn. There's a lot of people on YouTube and all over the place teaching things, selling courses and all that kind of stuff. So I can't imagine I would ever give anyone bad advice. That seems impossible. But just listen to what people say and learn to take the good with the bad, and just don't listen to the bad advice. And that's why I just want to point out some of the things that you may want to discard from the old boy Dave Ramsey over there. But he's got a huge following, so hopefully maybe people search him and they'll find this and they'll realize not everything he says is the gospel. I'm not trying to trash the guy. He's done great for himself. He's huge. I shall hope to have that success one day. So thank you again for coming to the channel. Subscribe, hit the like button. And if you really like this content, ring the little bell down there. That'll let you know every time I put out another video, so you won't miss any of this wonderful content. And if that's too much of a commitment, subscribing to the channel, just hit the like button. Just hit that like right down there. That just lets me know you appreciate the effort that I'm putting out. And for that small favor, I shall make you another video. Thank you. We'll see you in the next one.